Hey, good evening, and thank you for joining us on the Scabbard tonight. It is game night versus the Carolina Hurricanes. And we're coming off of uh, a good 6-4 victory. Although, if you look at a lot of the stats that backed up the victory against the Toronto Maple Leafs, and it's always great to beat the hated Toronto Maple Leafs. Um, we were dominating a lot of things. Face-off zone, hits. One area we did dominate was in shots. We had 41 shots on goal. Five of those got past the goaltender wall, and a sixth empty netter sealed the deal for the Sabers. But let's talk about the game the other night. Uh, there we go. There we go. All right. Stat of the night: Ryan Johnson got his first NHL point in his first NHL game and will likely see heavy minutes tonight. He only saw about almost 8.5 minutes in that game as the Sabres, for the first time in the Granado era I can remember, is running with 11 forwards and 7D instead of the usual 12 and 6, due to a lot of injuries. And we'll go over the injuries here in a minute because there are a lot. Um, but yeah, he's going to be in the top pairing with Rasmus Dahlin, and we'll go over the lines here in a bit for the Carolina game. But yeah, congratulations to Ryan Johnson getting his first goal on a beautiful pass to Jeff Skinner, um, and a great response goal that Skinner scored after the Leafs had tied it up. So as far as the Leafs game go, the Sabres didn't wilt. One of the things I noticed in the two previous games against the Philadelphia Flyers is that when the physical game amped up, they wilted, and then they fed into that, by skating into the boards, keeping the puck on the boards, and allowing Philadelphia to really amp up the physical play. Um, Toronto was physical; they out hit us. Um, and we didn't wilt, and we kept the puck more to the middle of the ice. We had better flow in our offense, better puck possession with our offense because we kept it in the middle of the ice rather than going to the boards and getting worn down by the third and fourth lines of the Leafs, or getting scored on by the first line of the Leafs. We did get scored on by the first line of the Leafs quite a bit, but we did enough to win, and that was good, especially seeing that comeback after what happened with Philadelphia. Now, can they keep it going? Um, they stopped the streak of bad outings, in that they had two really bad outings against Philadelphia. We're lucky to win one of them, um, and then the second one was just an absolute debacle. They stopped the streak, and that's the key this season: is don't let the streaks get too high or get too low from the streaks perspective. Um, and try and string together some, multiple game winning streaks, 3, 4, 5 game winning streaks. That's how you make the playoffs in this league. Keep keep momentum going as far as winning going, but when it comes to a bad outing, nip it in the bud as quickly as possible. Don't let it fester like we did last year, where we had two streaks early in the season, one in November and one in towards in March and April, February and March, where the Sabres struggled to stack points. You nip those in the buds at two or three games, you're going to make the playoffs. We only have to make up 1 point over what we did last year, and I think the way that the league is going, we're probably going to need about 5 or 6 points just to ensure a playoff position at the end of the year, not try and sneak into wild card two on the last day of the season. So I'm hoping for at least 100 points from the Sabres this year. Um, and the time to stack points is now, because it only gets harder as you go throughout the season. But they had quick responses, so that was the cool thing. The Leafs scored, and it was Austin Matthews, who always scores against the Sabres. And again, at any point during this game, they could have just wilted and said, well, we got scored on. Um, we struggled the other game. And they could have retreated into their shell and hopefully, try and skate Toronto to a overtime point. They didn't. They kept on the front foot. They responded quickly um, with the Skinner goal. Um, Yeah, the 3 goals that Austin Matthews scored, I think we scored within, 2 or 3 minutes of each of those goals, and then the Skinner goal was, like, 25 seconds after that goal. Um, we did lose badly on the faceoff dot. That's, again, still an area that the Sabres have to get better in. They won barely over 30% of their draws on, Saturday night. Yes, they got the win, but when it comes to if you're building towards the playoffs as the season goes on, that is something you have to address. You've got to get either your existing centers have to get better at the draw, or you're gonna have to bring somebody in. But they didn't feed the trolls because, Toronto came off that, loss where the defenseman Liljegren got injured, against Boston, didn't respond, to that injury to kind of a slew foot from Brad Marchand, media ate them alive, and there could have been a situation where Buffalo really got sucked into stupid stuff because the Toronto Maple Leafs were ready to roll. They were ready to kinda show their mettle. They didn't feed into that. And yeah, the Maple Leafs did out hit the Sabres, but it wasn't like just an absolutely egregious amount that we got out hit by. So the Sabres continued to make, play some physical hockey, but didn't feed into the trolls. Didn't get into revenge games that, because Toronto didn't respond to Boston, that we were going to get drawn into that. So that was a win, um, uh, in that, and we were okay on special teams. We got a shorthanded goal by Tage Thompson. Um, a great effort by Tage Thompson. We also got a power play goal, by JJ Peterka early in the game. It was good to score on the power play. The power play has been kind of an issue. Um, we did give up a power play goal to Austin Matthews, and we did take some penalties towards the end of the game that, gave us a little bit of white knuckle, times there at the, kind of midway point of the third period. But the penalty kill has been, absolutely amazing. Now we only gave up one goal to Matthews is remarkable for a team like Toronto's, vaunted power play. Um, and we'll talk about, our player profile tonight in that, uh, some of the stats when it comes to, um, how they play. Let me look up something right quick. I forgot to look up our player profile. There we go. All right. But let's take a look at tonight's game. It is the Carolina Hurricanes. Those of us who remember 2005, 2006 still have still angry about that when it comes to Carolina. If we just had one more healthy defenseman in Game 7, um, we probably would have won the cup that year. Just one more healthy defenseman that we wouldn't have to run Rory Fitzpatrick and Andy Delmore out on the PK, uh, when Carolina scored their game tying goal and eventually scored their winning goal in Game 7 in the third period. Um, but yeah, they're 7-5, third in the Metro, which is a little bit surprising. I think a lot of people have Carolina as a Stanley Cup contender, um, one of the favorites to come out of the East, although they have disappointed when it comes to the playoffs. They started out slow. They went 3-4, had a 3-game losing streak at one point, but have turned it around. They're winners of 4 of their last 5, but they have lost Freddie Anderson, a big injury. He has blood clots, so he'll be out for the foreseeable future for the Canes. They do have they're, like the Sabres, have a three-headed goalie monster. Although I kind of trust their goaltending a little bit more than Buffalo's. But they have Antti Ranta, who's been the backup to Freddie Anderson, played pretty well this season, 3-1 on the season. Um, and they also have Pavel Kochetkov, who just got called up from Syracuse. So I don't know if Kochetkov was in the nets when the Amerks beat them on Saturday, but yeah, I would guess so. He's their top goaltending prospect in their system. So, but yeah, how does that impact the team going forward tonight? Carolina's had Buffalo's number, especially in Raleigh. They have won eight in a row, and the the Sabres only got 1 point, so they only got them to overtime in one of those 8 contests. So, um, the Sabres do need of the, you know the Sabres played really well on the road. They're a really good road team, but when it comes to Carolina, for some reason, they don't get it. They allow a ton of goals. Tavo Teravainen and Svechnikov and Aho are just feast on the Buffalo Sabres. Um, but those are the players you need to look out for. And let's talk about tonight's lines by the Carolina Hurricanes, projected from Walt Ruff, their beat reporter, posted to Daily Faceoff. Daily Faceoff is an awesome resource if you want to get information on who's playing, if you do daily fantasy and things like that, on getting insights on who's playing for which team, especially starting goalies and things like that. It saves you a lot of time versus just trolling Twitter for updates. But Stefan Nason, Sebastian Aho, Seth Jarvis on that first line, all three are really good. Svechnikov, Kotkaniemi, and Teravainen. Uh, this is going to be the terror line for the Sabres. They're going to have to be really good against these guys. Third line, Michael Bunting, Jack Drury, and Martin Nachas. And the fourth line, Jordan Martinook, Jordan Stahl, one of the Stahl brothers, and Jesper Fast. Um, it's that's an interesting fourth line. A lot of size with Martinook and Stahl. Fast gives you that speed element, living up to his name, and so yeah, that's the forward pairings for the lines for the Carolina Hurricanes. The defensive pairings: Jacob Slavin with Brent Burns, Brady Shea, and Chatfield, Eric Chatfield, I think. Anyway, Dmitry Orlov and Tony D'Angelo. There's been rumors that D'Angelo may be on the move soon to some team. Uh, but I think some of the injury news here recently for the Carolina Hurricanes keeps D'Angelo there for a little bit. With their goalies tonight, it's going to be Antti Ranta as the starter, Pavel Kochetkov, the backup goaltender for the Hurricanes. And the scratches, the reason why I think D'Angelo sticks around is you got Brett Pesci on the IR, also Freddie Anderson on the IR. Um, but they do need to clear some cap space to be able to bring in uh, players later this year, and that's I think why Tony DeAngelo is seen as expendable. But yeah, so that's the Carolina Hurricanes. Uh, uh, Best wishes for Freddie Anderson. He's a good goaltender. Blood clots are a serious issue for anybody, but for a hockey player, a professional athlete, have got to be even more concerning because you throw a clot from, say, your leg or your hip, or I think it's the hip is what they were saying, and get into your lungs and cause instant death. So get that taken care of. Take care of those clotting issues if you ever get diagnosed with them. For the Sabres, their forward lines per Paul Hamilton this morning. The boys are back in town. The number one line, the crew is back together. Skinner, Thompson, Tuck. The second line played really well as the third line early in the season. Greenway, Middlestat, Paterka. Olofsson draws in with Peyton Krebs and Lucas Rusek, and then Gergensen's Joseph Okposo. Um, the reason why Olofsson's in is because we got a ton of guys out, and we'll go into that in a minute. But our defense pairings: Rasmus Dahlin with Ryan Johnson. That's high praise for a kid who's on his second game in the NHL. To stick him with Rasmus Dahlin. Um, Granado was very effusive in his praise of Johnson and his ability to integrate with multiple partners on Saturday night, and how he held himself during that game and the communications that he had to feel comfortable enough to stick him on the first pairing is high praise indeed. Usually, a rookie just coming in would be where Eric Johnson is, that second pairing or third pairing, not a first pairing generally. But the second pairing is Owen Power, Yoki Haru, and third pairing is Connor Clifton and Eric Johnson reunited on the third pairing. It's a little, it's different because there was so much swirl going into Saturday's game with the lineup. We were presented with traditional 12-6, and then minutes before the game or minutes before I went on Saturday, there was the announcement that um, we had yeah, guys injured and going to be out uh, for a while. Comrie being out, Samuelson going on IR, and then just before game start, we get the word that they're going to skate 11-7, which is, like I said, one of the first times we've seen this in the Granado era, and really just kind of forced into that with the number of injuries that the Sabres are getting. Our goalies tonight is going to be Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen in goal. He was 0-1 last season against the Carolina Hurricanes. I believe gave up 4 or 5 goals. Might have been an empty netter, but they lost in that game 5-1. Um, Devin Levi did get a start against the Carolina Hurricanes. They won 4-3. Little curious, but Granado has said that he is going to do more of a rotation amongst the two goaltenders um, for the foreseeable future until we see Comrie come back, and we'll see what happens with Comrie. Probably get a conditioning stint in Rochester before coming back up and playing full time, not full time, but at least getting in the rotation. But the list is expanding for our injury report. We're up to 8 players out of the lineup tonight. Um, yes, there's talk about are they really injured, especially when it comes to Savoy and Benson. Uh, Savoy was brought up. He was called up, and Brandon Byro goes on injured reserve. Our scratches tonight, we've got Jacob Bryson is a healthy scratch. Matt Savoy is a healthy scratch. Granado said that he wants to get him in some more practices before throwing him out on the ice, which is something he didn't say about Ryan Johnson. But um, yeah, so Savoy's going to get integrated into that forward lineup. There isn't a desperate need for him to be on the forward lineup just yet. Plus, I think they are slow rolling both Savoy and Benson when it comes to how long they're going to keep them around. Benson's got 2 more games on his 9-game stint. Savoy just starting now gets 9 games between now and whenever they need to make their decision. What do they do with these two guys? Do they allow them to go play the World Juniors and then make the final decision after that is over? That's going to take some more roster finagling for that to happen, but I don't know. It's not too far off. I mean, we are in November, and World Juniors, their camp starts in the middle of December. You could conceivably get a 9-game stint from Savoy, but if you start holding both of these guys out of games because you want to be able to hold them and send them off to the World Juniors, then you're really hindering their development because they're gonna get better in game action rather than sitting on the bench and watching the Buffalo Sabres play. I watched the Buffalo Sabres play. I still suck at hockey. So, um, there are some things you can learn while watching the game, but at this point, these guys need development. And, I think it's a risky proposition here to kind of play with these rules. Plus, if you are playing with the injury rules with the NHL just proved that they will take some serious action against you if you're finagling with the rules. Look at what just happened with Ottawa Senators. They failed to inform the the Vegas Golden Knights that um, Evgeny Dadonov had a no trade clause, a no movement clause, and when they tried to trade him in the trade deadline a couple seasons ago, it got vetoed because the team that they tried to trade him to, Anaheim, was one of his 9 teams that he had indicated he didn't want to be moved to. So he had that veto right. Vegas was not informed. The NHL ruled that uh, Ottawa deliberately hid the fact that he had submitted his 9-team no movement clause, and yeah, ended up forfeiting a first round draft pick, and the general manager had to resign. So, uh, if you are finagling the rules, there is a danger in that. If the Sabres lost a first round draft pick right now, I don't know that it's all that harmful. There seems to be a plethora of talent in our prospects that I think we could absorb something like that. But I don't want to. I don't want to chance it. So I would play straight with this one. Give Savoy and Benson their 9 games. Make the determination, even if it is at this point to keep them here until the World Junior Championship start. I think we're close enough that it makes sense. But as you know, even if we sent them back to Wenatchee, I think their teams would release them for the World Juniors. I don't think there's any danger that either Benson nor Savoy, because they now both have, well, Savoy will have pro experience, will only serve the Canadian roster uh, by being there. So I don't think there's any chance that they're going to miss the World Junior Championships. All right, let's see, but yeah, we've got a ton of guys off. Savoy's healthy, waiting for practices. Byro just went on the IR. The reason why I thought that there may be some roster finagling here, when they talked about what Byro had, they were like, "We put him on IR because we didn't know what he had," which is extremely sus to me. Comrie's on IR. We know he got injured. Cousins day to day injured in the fight. Quinn, of course, with his Achilles issue, Benson being on the IR for a little bit, and then Matthias Samuelson being on IR. They did say that he is probably closer to coming back. Um, so I'm expecting by the time maybe the Minnesota game on Friday, we'll see Cousins and at least Cousins back. Samuelson maybe a week or so before we see him back in the lineup. Tonight's odds per DraftKings. Play responsibly, ladies and gentlemen. Why did you go away? There we go. Tonight's odds per DraftKings. Play responsibly. Buffalo is giving away a goal and a half on the road, and the over/under is 6.5. I hope you bet Buffalo and bet the over in the last game because that would have paid out as the teams combined for 10 goals when the over was 7, and Buffalo got a goal and a half, and they won by 2. So if you bet Buffalo and bet the over, you made out like a bandit last time. So yeah, that's the line, and that brings us to tonight's player profile, and that is Mr. Jordan Greenway. We got some really cool stats from the Buffalo Sabres talking about Mr. Greenway. Let me see if they posted them yet. They have not posted them yet, but anyway, Jordan Greenway has the most time on ice on the penalty kill, shorthanded time on ice with giving up 1 or fewer goals. And he's one of 2 players, including Tage Thompson, who have been on the ice for more shorthanded goals than they've allowed power play goals. Has turned into quite the penalty killer along with Tage Thompson this season. So it's good to see with Jordan Greenway. But Jordan is a 1997 birth year that makes him 26 years old. These guys, I mean, it seems like these guys have been playing the league for years, and they really have, but these are guys that started playing in the NHL 17, 18, or 18, 19, 20 years old. So they've got a few years under their belt. He was born in Canton, New York, so relatively close-ish. 6 foot 6 inches, 229 pounds. He plays the left wing. Was drafted originally 50th overall by the Minnesota Wild. Started his career with the Minnesota Wild and came over in a trade um, from Minnesota, and for during the deadline last year, uh, was apparently injured uh, either when he came over or just after he came over. Um, he had some moments, during that year. There was one of the game where Devin Levi made his initial debut. He scored a nice goal and scored towards the end of the season, but injuries made him not as effective as he should be. He's been much more effective this year, and that's good to see. Good, glad that he's on the PK, making our PK better. Fifth in the league right now at 89%, and yeah, glad to have him on the team. I like Jordan Greenway, and hopefully he continues to grow in his role with the Buffalo Sabres and remains healthy. I think that's been kind of the knock on Greenway, including coming over here, is that he has had some injury issues, and getting a full 82 games out of him, or at least 70 games out of him, will go a long way to uh, I think making the Sabres a much more competitive playoff team. All right, three keys to the game tonight is be ready to match Carolina's speed and ferocity and tenacity. Um, they are a speed team. They it feels like when you play Carolina that you are uh, facing breakaway after breakaway, and it really is true. They are ready to go. So, point three: beware of the counterattack and defend in layers. Don't try and limit the amount of odd man rushes that come out of this game. Shoot from the point on Ranta. Ranta, one of the highest shooting percentages on the team against Antti Ranta is Rasmus Dahlin, um, getting up near the 20% mark with his play against Rasmus or as against Antti Ranta. So it tells me that Ranta is a guy that has issues seeing pucks from the point. You get some traffic in front of him, screen him as much as possible. Get some garbage goals, tip in goals, whatever you got to do, but get that traffic from the point. Get the shot from the point. Get the traffic to the net and score that way. And then of course beware of the counterattacks because they are fast and they've got multiple guys who score and have scored against the Sabres. Teravine and Aho, Svechnikov. It feels like every game we play against them, we'll see one of those guys, or actually all three of those guys score against us. All right, on this date in 1982, November 7th of 1982, Gilbert Perreault scored his 400th goal. It was in a 3-1 victory over our expansion cousins, Vancouver, who almost had the ability to pick Gilbert Perreault, but lost on the spin of the wheel. It was on 11 instead of 1, and Buffalo got, uh, Perot, and Perot won 11 or wore 11 for the rest of his career, so, let's see. Down on the farm, Rochester won on Saturday, so they are 6-2-2, leading the North Division. They beat the Syracuse Crunch, and I think Antti Raanta was there, in that or not Ranta, but, Kochetkov was there. Um, and then Jacksonville, 3-2-1. They lost their last game against, I believe, Greenville, the Swamp Rabbits. Gotta love minor league hockey names. They play tomorrow night against the Savannah Ghost Pirates. So ECHL hockey has some interesting hockey nicknames or team nicknames. Uh, Swamp Rabbits and Ghost Pirates are two of them. The Jacksonville's interesting in and of itself. The Jacksonville Icemen. There's not outside of the hockey arena. There's probably not much ice there in Jacksonville. So, but yeah, Michael Hauser, who's had a couple cups of coffee with the Buffalo Sabres, played really well towards the end of that forgettable the COVID season. Um, he was just sent down to Jacksonville, so he's the only one that's played with the Sabres that's on Jacksonville at this point. But Jacksonville's purpose is to be able to um, feed into Rochester when the Sabres have to call up a lot of players like not Zach Benson, but Johnson and Savoy just came up, Rusek and all these guys have come up. Brandon Byro, that's the purpose of Jacksonville is to feed and backfill the team. And then Jacksonville's got to backfill with guys from other leagues to try and fill the gap there. So life on the farm is not easy, and I'm sure Rochester's playing really well. Can't deny that they're playing really well this season. Uri Kulik and Isaac Roseanne are phenomenal. Kulik is just scoring up a storm. He's got 9 goals in 10 games. Um, but the role of a farm team is not to win AHL championships or ECHL championships. It'd be great if they do. It's great experience for the players, but they're there to serve the NHL team. And that's the brutal honesty of this is that some of these players are not going to be there at the end of the season while the Amerks are trying to fight for a playoff spot or playoff positioning, or even in the playoffs, because they're going to be up with the Buffalo Sabres helping them to make the playoffs and win in the playoffs. So, but good starts on both teams, especially with Rochester. Can't talk enough good stuff about Coach Appert and how he's developed some of these young studs, um, and gotten them ready for the NHL life. Um, Keep an eye on Kisikoff. I think Kisikoff is going to start blowing up. Maybe not first part of the season, but I think as we get more into the season, he's going to start blowing up for the Rochester Americans. So, anyway, that is our show tonight. I appreciate everybody watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, uh, wherever you're watching the show from. Give us a like and a share where you can. Give us a subscription, free subscription. I don't like charging for stuff. So, I do this out of the, my own entertainment, really. But I appreciate you watching. Again, if you want to become a co-host of the show, just reach out to me on my social medias. Reach out to me on the accounts that you're watching this on. I'll be happy to talk to you, and we'll see what we can do as far as getting you to become a host. And other than that, enjoy the game tonight. Let's go Buffalo. Go watch the MSG game or MSG preview with Marty and Duffer. I think they're a couple minutes into it. So appreciate you tuning in, and we will talk to you all on Friday night when the Buffalo Sabres take on the Minnesota Wild.